Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel Canada Immigration. We hope you're doing great. Well, in this episode, we'll discuss some express entry myths to avoid while immigrating to Canada. So, to get all the information, pay attention and watch the video through to the end. Please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to push the notification bell for upcoming episodes. So, without any further delay, let's jump into the video. Well, let us begin with myth number 1. Anybody may apply for Canada's fast entry. Canada is frequently one of the top prospective locations for those who are thinking about relocating permanently overseas, in large part because of its liberal immigration laws. Because of its quick and simple application procedure, express entry is one of Canada's most well-liked immigration processes, but this does not imply that anybody may use fast entry to submit an immigration application to Canada. If you are eligible for at least one of the following economic immigration categories, you can apply for express entry. First, the Federal Skilled Worker (FSW) program. Professional experience: you must be a foreign resident and have at least 1,560 hours of recent, continuous, paid work experience. Your previous employment must have been in a high-skilled position that is comparable to a TER 0, 1, 2, or 3 position. Language proficiency: you must pass a Canadian language benchmark, CLB 7 or above exam in either English or French. Higher education: you must present documentation of your academic credentials, such as transcripts and degrees, as well as certifications, along with an educational credential assessment if you completed your education outside Canada. Second, the Federal Skilled Trades Program (FSTP). Professional experience: you must be a foreign resident with at least 2 years' worth, 3,120 hours of recent paid work experience in a skilled profession (AMD). You must possess either a full-time employment offer from a Canadian company, or a certificate of certification for your trade issued by a Canadian institution. Language proficiency: you must take and pass an accredited paid work experience in a skilled position. Moving on to myth number 2. Anybody who submits an express entry application is granted permanent express entry profile and join the candidate pool. If you are eligible for one of the 3 economic immigration programs under express entry profile submission is not the same as a permanent residency application, though. Basic details like your education, age, the National Occupational Classification, NOC code, and duration of your work experience, language test results, and more are included in your express entry profile. Your comprehensive ranking system, CRS score, is determined using the data you provided when you submit your profile, and your profile is rated as a result to establish the CRS score cutoff for the period. Immigration, refugees, and citizenship: Canada holds drawings, often every 2 weeks. If your score is equal to or higher than the cutoff, you will be invited to apply for permanent residence. Only candidates with excellent CRS scores are often asked to apply for PR. Now, myth number 3. To get Canadian permanent residence, you must use express entry. Many would-be immigrants think that if they don't meet the requirements for fast entry, they won't be granted permanent residency in Canada. It is untrue. Although the most well-known immigration program provided by the Canadian government is express entry, there are several other programs for which you can be eligible. Around 50% of Canada's yearly immigration objectives are met via express entry, which implies that the remaining 50% of immigrants who come to Canada as permanent residents must apply through other immigration procedures, such as Provincial Nominee Programs, PNP. These programs allow Canadian provinces to nominate eligible candidates for permanent residency based on their specific. This immigration program allows entrepreneurs who wish to start their venture or purchase a scalable business to qualify for permanent residence in Canada. Quebec Selected Skilled Workers: this program allows eligible skilled foreign workers to settle permanently in Quebec. Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, RNIP: this program encourages newcomers to live and work permanently in one of the participating communities in Canada. Moving on to myth number 4. To be eligible for express entry, you must have a work offer from Canada to be eligible for express entry under the Federal Skilled Worker FSW or Canadian Experience Class (CEC) programs, you don't need a work offer from a Canadian business. You must have a job offer from a Canadian employer or certification for your profession from a federal, provincial, or territorial regulatory body in Canada to be considered for the Federal Skilled Trades Program, but, with a genuine employment offer from a Canadian business, you might get 50 to 200 CRS points. These additional points might considerably increase your chances of becoming eligible for permanent residence, because the fast entry program is competitive. Furthermore, arriving in Canada with a job in hand might facilitate establishing your new residence. Now, myth number 5. Language test results are irrelevant for express entry, which means language scores don't matter for express entry. To demonstrate their fluency in at least one of the official languages of Canada, English or French, all express entry candidates must show up for an authorized language exam. Although the need for a language exam is widely recognized, many candidates are unaware of how their language proficiency would influence their ability to get permanent residency. You must get at least the minimal comprehensive language benchmark score needed for your program to be eligible for express entry. For the FSTP, the minimum acceptable language score is CLB 5 for speaking and listening and CLB 4 for reading and writing. For the FSW program, you must have at least a CLB 7 across all 4 language abilities depending on your profession. You need either a CLB 5 or a 7 to qualify for CEC. Scores in the language are not the only requirement for admission, though. If your language score is greater than the minimal criteria, you can also earn extra CRS points, increasing your likelihood of being called to apply for PR. You may always repeat the language exam if your first score is poor to raise your CLB level and increase your chances of being eligible for PR. Next is myth number 6. If your CRS score is low, there's no way to improve it. One persistent misconception about express entry is that after your profile has been submitted, your CRS score is fixed and cannot be changed. It is untrue. Your express entry profile is live for up to a year after you submit it, during which time you can edit it or add new information. A job offer from a Canadian business, a provincial nomination, retaking the primary language exam, or taking both the English and French language tests, as well as having your educational qualifications evaluated, are just a few of the many possibilities to raise your CRS score. Before building your express entry profile, you may estimate your score using the government CRS calculator. This will offer you a more accurate idea of your prospects of being approved for PR and allow you more time to raise your CRS score. If you're not in a rush to apply for permanent residency, you may also look into alternative routes, such as briefly working or studying in Canada, to raise your CRS score. Moving on to myth number 7. Express entry is based on a lottery system. Some immigrants mistakenly think that candidates from the express entry pool are chosen for PR at random or through a lottery. However, this is untrue in Canada. Your comprehensive ranking system, CRS score, is determined when you submit your express entry profile based on the data you include in your profile every 2 weeks. A lottery known as an invitation round is done to determine the minimum CRS cutoff required for a PR invitation to apply, ITA. The number of applicants in the express entry pool, their test results, and the anticipated ITA issuance rate all play a role in determining the cutoff you will be requested to submit a PR application, if your score is higher than the threshold. Sometimes more than one applicant receives a score that is precisely equal to the cutoff, in which case an ITA will be awarded based on a tie-breaking rule. Even then, a lottery is not used to determine the tiebreaker. Instead, emphasis is placed on individuals whose profiles were submitted before a particular date and time. Coming on myth number 8. You cannot update your express entry profile once it has been submitted. Many candidates for PR are not aware that they may edit their express entry profile after submitting it. When it is active, you may update your express entry profile whenever you want, up to 1 year after submission or until you receive an ITA, whichever is sooner. You must always maintain your express entry profile current. According to the IRCC, this implies that you must update your express entry profile if you've moved employment, retook a language exam, obtained more schooling, gotten married, or if your circumstances have altered in any other manner. If you've been ruled ineligible, if your profile is no longer valid, or after you've received an invitation to apply, you won't be able to make changes to your express entry profile. Now, myth number 9. You have to hire an immigration consultant to apply for PR through express entry. Another prevalent express entry myth that many immigrants hold on to is that you need to engage an immigration counselor to apply for permanent residency. The government does not favor applications filed through an immigration consultant, and hiring one is optional. The express entry application procedure may be made simpler and more error-free by engaging with an immigration professional. Be sure your immigration consultant is authorized and registered with the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants if you decide to utilize one, CEC. The IRCC and the Government of Canada do not work with unregistered consultants, and engaging one might lead to your application being turned down. An approved immigration advisor will often be either a registered Canadian immigration consultant (CEC) or a regulated international student immigration advisor (RISIA) on a variety of immigration programs. CEC may advise you and even submit your application for you. But RISIAs cannot submit your application for you. They can only offer assistance with study permits for overseas students. Now, myth number 10. The good news is that you can reapply for fast entry if you previously applied but did not receive an ITA and you still match the requirements. There is no maximum number of times you may submit an express entry profile, and there is no fee for doing so. But if your CRS score falls within the current cutoff range, only then will your chances of being invited to apply for PR increase. When creating a new express entry profile, you should endeavor to raise your score if your first CRS score was low. The CRS score will decrease when you reapply if all other parameters stay the same. If you are above 29 years old, since your age points will decrease each year, for applicants 45 years of age or more, age points will drop to 0. Myth number 11. It's okay to lie on your express entry profile if it improves your chances of qualifying. You may face a ban on admission to Canada or perhaps deportation if you lied or made false statements on your express entry application. Although you only need to include the bare minimum of information in your express entry profile, once you receive an invitation to apply for permanent residency, you will need to submit all supporting documentation, such as your academic records and credentials, letters attesting to your work experience, the results of your language tests, and bank statements. The IRCC verifies candidate data and the legitimacy of your paperwork in great detail. Your application will be denied and you risk being barred from entering Canada for several years if it is discovered that your information or documentation is false or fraudulent. You won't be qualified for Canadian permanent residency, and there will be a permanent mention of the occurrence in your immigration file. People may have their PR status revoked and face deportation from Canada in the rare instances where a falsehood is discovered after an immigration application is granted. And the last myth, number 12. New permanent residents must give their settlement funds to the Canadian government. Another common misconception about fast entry among potential immigrants is that you must pay the IRCC a fee to settle in Canada. It is untrue. The settlement money you display will be yours to keep. The only documentation needed by the Canadian government is confirmation that you have enough cash on hand to pay your living expenses for the first few